Good morning, everybody. This is not a typical topic for a discussion at Assembly, so I suppose I'm going a little bit off-road or off the beaten path in reference to our earlier speakers. And just to make sure I get this right, I'm going to read parts of it. I haven't done this for a long time in front of Assembly. In fact, I've never done this in this space. So we're going to look at the etymology of TOTOMOI. Names invariably have a story behind them, and exploring them can often provide fascinating windows into the past. I want to briefly consider the name TOTOMOI. For much of this information, I am indebted to 1965 MBA graduate and lifelong learner John P. Williams, who shared his recent discoveries with me recently and his reflections on those discoveries. So, in 1950, MBA graduates Bob McNeely and Inman Fox established the Honor Society TOTOMOI in 1954 in consultation with then Headmaster Sager. This is the same honor organization that continues today and that will hold its annual tapping in this very room in 2 weeks. They chose the name TOTOMOI presumably because of the gatepost bearing that name near Harding Road, which you see in the picture. That gatepost has been moved a couple of times, but the at least now somewhat faded TOTOMOI name remains there on the gatepost. Why is that name on the gatepost? How many of you have wondered that? Perhaps many of you. Well, I'll tell you, we should look at the context of late 19th century and early 20th century Nashville to get an understanding of that. A businessman named Garland Tinsley moved to the growing city of Nashville from Richmond, Virginia in 1897 to expand his family's fertilizer business westward. Tinsley's Tennessee Chemical Company was an immediate success, and he began looking for land on which to build a country estate. Nashville then had a streetcar line that extended from downtown out West End to the city limits, which were then Wilson Boulevard, so just almost to where we sit right now. So in 1905, Tinsley acquired the land that is currently MBA and built a rather grand country home there where the Ball building now stands. He named it TOTOMOI after his ancestral home in Hanover County, Virginia, which was and is about 12 miles from Richmond. That house, built in 1800, was named after the nearby TOTOMOI Creek. The creek, in turn, was named for a legendary Pamunkey warrior chief named TOTOMOI, who had been killed in battle near there in 1656. So, how did MBA, founded in 1867, end up here on Mr. Tinsley's former property? Well, I'll tell you. In 1914, amidst the progressive country day schools movement, and 1 year after the construction of Belmead Boulevard and the extension of the West End streetcar line out to the end of Belmead Boulevard, MBA's board decided to move its campus out of the city and into the country. Tinsley had recently sold his company and moved to Baltimore. MBA ended up buying the TOTOMOI property, the house and 32 acres for $74,000. Imagine that in relation to today, where I imagine 32 acres sitting right here would be much more than $7.4 million, but we got it for a bargain at $74,000. The house was remodeled into the first school building on the new country campus on the extended streetcar line. Then, 10 years later, calamity struck. The remodeled house was completely destroyed by fire. After an aggressive fundraising campaign, the TOTOMOI building was rebuilt in 1927 and renamed the Ball Building after longtime headmaster Isaac Ball. Essentially the Ball Building that we have today, although it's been remodeled several times, including that stairwell that's on the, what would it be, the northeast corner, perhaps? But we don't know exactly why Mr. Fox, Mr. McNeely, and Headmaster Sager chose the TOTOMOI name for the organization, except that they saw that name and thought perhaps it had some kind of mystical aspect to it. But as a result of their decision, the name lives on centuries after the death of the heroic chief of the Pamunkey tribe outside of what would become Richmond, Virginia. We too are near a creek that helped sustain Native peoples long before Mr. Tinsley came here, or even long before John Donaldson, or even Timothy de Montbriand, the French trapper trader, who was here as early as the 1730s. So when the tapping begins in 2 weeks here in this room, consider the name TOTOMOI and the 17th century chief TOTOMOI, and how the Ball Building, along with a number of other buildings, and even the TOTOMOI name itself, eventually rose from the ashes of that 1924 fire like a phoenix. That, my friends, is the ongoing story of the name TOTOMOI. So I hope you've enjoyed Story Hour here on the Hill, which began millennia ago, presumably, with Native Americans gathering here. So that's all I got. And Happy Spirit Week.
Thank you, Dr. Bailey.